Hello, my name is Jasmine Kim, and I would like to present the project that I did for the database course. And this project was called Star Schema Database Project, and it was basically learning to use the data modification language: insert, update, delete, truncate, and merge. So in the beginning, we were given this initial database, and this is how it looked like. And you can see each tables each table with foreign key relationships, and there are data inside in each table. And so we were asked to first of all add three additional columns to every table. So those columns were user authorization key, date added, and the date of last update, and replace identity property with sequence object. and and we were told to truncate, so basically empty out every table and basically reload, and then restore foreign key relationships because they had to be dropped before truncating, and then creating workflow table and computing duration of the entire thing, truncating and reloading, how long did that all take, and create two additional tables to show grandparent parent child relationship. And then we also did this through JDBC, so that will I will show that screen with you later with Eclipse. So first of all, three adding three additional columns, and here's just one example of the syntax or the code that I added for one of those many tables. And yeah, so you can see that the three columns were added here, and replacing identity property with sequence object. So in order to replace the property identity property, first of all, you first have to create that sequence that will be used for that specific table. So this is another example of dim territory table, and I created the sequence for that table, and here's the code for it. And in order to replace identity property with sequence object, I first had to, first of all, remove the primary key constraint. And and I do that here. I name this, the primary key was called this in the database, so I had to drop it specifically referring to this. And and then I drop the column because identity property is attached to that column. So, and then I add back that column, but this time I don't specify the identity property. So, and then after that, what I do is that I just specify that this column is now primary key, kind of like restoring what it was before, but I also do like a default and say that every time a row is added into this table, use the territory key, this is the name of it, sequence that I created in when inserting new data or new row into the table. So this is how I replaced identity property with sequence object. So now we're ready to drop. So drop all of the data. So we do the truncate, and I made a store procedure to be able to do that for all of the, well, actually, I first have to drop the foreign keys. So before we can ever truncate, we have to drop all of the relationships between the tables. And it's just the way that T-SQL was designed. So this is the store procedure that I made. And what it does is that it goes through each table, and then there was a lot of relationship between data and all other tables. So you can see that um, there was a relationship in dim customer with also with dim gender, dim marital status. So these are all dropped by calling upon or invoking this store procedure called dropping all foreign keys. So next we're ready to truncate. So here's the syntax for this, and it was very simple. And another important step to take is that the sequence has to be restarted. So if it was like the very first time running it, maybe restarting the sequence was not necessary. But when I'm designing or when I'm working on this project, I will be doing this multiple times. So each time I run the stored procedures, I would have to restart the sequence. So start it with one. And then now we're ready to insert the data back into the tables that were truncated. So this is one of the store procedures that I created for one of the tables. And so in the database, after we truncated everything, we have this originally loaded data file where all of the data was based upon, and from there we divide the data into different tables and organize it. So this is the syntax that I used. Select distinct. Well, first of all, insert into, specify the table columns, and then also do select distinct from file upload originally loaded data, and I do an inner join with the dim product category because subcategory actually references the product category table, so that's why that was necessary. And and also you might notice that I don't specifically invoke or try to insert the primary key here because I made the constraint, the default constraint that every time a data is loaded, it gets automatically generated for the sequence. Yep, so that's load data. And then after I load all of the data into every table, I now have to restore the foreign keys because that's how the database was before I started making all changes. So here's the syntax that I used for that. Alter table, add constraint, and specify the name of the relationship, the foreign key. And I did that for all of the tables. And these first two represents the parent, the child parent and grandparent relationship. I'll go show more about this later. And here's the workflow table. This was another table that we had to create to keep track of all of the changes that we were making. And the table included these columns: workflow step key, that's the primary key, the description of that step, and so basically the row count, how many data, how many rows were inserted. So that shows that count, and starting date time and ending date time, how long did that take if you take the difference of these two columns. Class time basically is a default. Our class time starts at 10:45 a.m., so that's defaulted to be inserted. And here's the user authorization to key to keep track of who made this change. And then so that table was embedded into, or the update to that table is embedded into every stored procedure. I think the procedure part got cut off. So this is one example of store procedure, and you can see that group member user authorization key was accepted as a parameter. And I also inside the store procedure I create additional variables to show to it to be inserted into this track workflow procedure that updates the or adds another like each row to workflows table. Okay, and then in between there's an insertion statement or whatever changes that you're making to the database, and after that it it shows how many rows were affected by that change, and it gets those all of these variables get put into this store procedure that updates the process USP track workflow table. Well, actually, that's a store procedure, but it's basically um, this store procedure actually updates the workflow table. And here is I did a screenshot of the database after all the changes were made. And here's the relationship that I was referring to, dim product category. Um, well, actually, dim product references subcategory and subcategory references category. So this is the grandparent, parent, and child relationship. One to many, one to many. And work steps table, this is how it looked like after I ran everything. It basically keeps track of what I did and how long it took. So if I were to take a difference between this start time, the minimum of this table, this column, and the maximum of this column, which is the end date, then it will show me how long the entire process took. And I think this is the code to be able to do that. This does exactly what I said. And this is a JDBC. I create the connection and I execute the query, basically do the load star schema data. Oh, this is something I should have shown. Um, so basically, okay, and then result set, my statement, execute query, and this is gonna show the table, but I do that with the J table, and this is what shows what is shown, the J table of the workflow table. And so let's take a look at the JDBC. Okay, and let's just run it. And the entire process, well, actually, I commented this out. Let's actually do the low star schema. Actually, that should be shown. Let's show that one. So this is the load star schema store procedure. It basically um, kind of executes everything that I went through in the PowerPoint, all the steps. Drop foreign key, truncate the data, insert data for every table, and then we restore the foreign key. So that's what it does. And so let's do that right now. Let's invoke store procedure, which completes all of the changes that I described earlier. And then also look at the workflow table and then do the time analysis. And this JTable was created. And then the next thing that will show is how long it took. Well, actually, that should have been second. I did it in second here. So it took like 4 seconds to do all of those steps. That's pretty fast. Well, thank you for watching, and this was a really, really good learning experience working with the data modification language in TSQL. Thank you.